Kill the Stigma podcast is not affiliated with any company, group, or entity. There are currently no approved uses for Kratom by the FDA. Anything heard here is solely for educational purposes and should not be taken as medical advice. We will be going into detailed accounts of addiction that might be disturbing to some viewers. Therefore, viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome to the Kill the Stigma podcast. It's your boy, the one and only Evan Garcia. With me is my little baby brother, Ivan Garcia. Reappearing. I appreciate you guys joining us in again this week. You know, this week we have a guest that must remain anonymous, and I think that really speaks to why we're doing what we're doing here today, because Kratom is so stigmatized. We would hate for anything that he says in this story pertaining to his addiction, to his recovery, to his even use of Kratom and Kava, to hinder him from any good opportunities that might come to him down the road. And, you know, I do think it's frustrating that some people have to hide this in their life, but I get it, you know, like some people don't understand what Kratom could do for somebody's recovery. And on the outside looking in, it could just seem like they are using, you know, this to cover up that. Johnny will be the first to tell you here today, and he'll go deep into his stories about his addiction and things that he went through, and he will tell you how Kratom has played into his recovery. To give all of our viewers a good idea of what Johnny looks like, Johnny's about, what are you, about 6'6"?
Yeah, 6'6".
About 6'6", Caucasian male, like very, very, very Caucasian male. He looks like the human embodiment of an 850 credit score.
You look like you were born on a yacht.
No, it looks like every other sentence coming out of his mouth is about to be, my dad will sue you.
You get the picture that we're painting here.
Very, very, very Caucasian. But anyways, we're just going to jump straight into it. And Johnny, how old are you, bro? Where are you from?
I am 26 now, and I am from the Douglas County area.
Okay.
I was born in the Springs, and I've lived in Douglas County and Denver, back in the Springs now, so been kind of up and down Colorado.
Perfect. What was your upbringing like?
I had good upbringing, middle class neighborhood. Granted,
I would say upper middle class, but okay.
That's fair. I mean, parents were real young when they had me, so it was a struggle for them when I was younger. I was born, like I said, in the Springs, lived right here down South Springs area. So
in the gutter?
I wouldn't say it was the gutter by any means, but it wasn't what I'm used to, or where I lived most of my childhood, right? So yeah, and then they, you know, started progressing their careers, and we moved up to the Douglas County area. That's where I went most of elementary all the way through high school. My mom, no addiction or anything. However, my dad is a recovering alcoholic now, but did drink most of my childhood up until about my teen years. But everything was provided for me. It wasn't that I, you know, was worried about if I'm going to eat or if I had clothes on my back or any of that.
All your physical needs were taken care of.
Oh, and beyond. I mean, I had an Xbox, I had TV in my room, I had, you know, a lot more than majority of kids have around the nation, I would even argue to say. But there was definitely some, I'd say, emotional abuse with my dad.
Did that perhaps stem from his addiction?
I think so, is alcohol, and then just, I think it also, when I look back, it came from an area of love as well. A lot of it revolved around basketball, and he could really see what my potential was.
Was he big into basketball as well?
Yeah, so he was one of the top players in the state when he was playing, and then ended up going to play college ball. He was mispositioned in high school and stuff, so from a young age, he had me playing point guard, shooting guard, developing those skills. So basically, if I grew tall, I wouldn't be mispositioned like he was.
Right, because that's like a thing in high school. I remember, you know, like being around basketball a lot when I was younger. It was like if a kid was 6'3", he was the center, and
right.
So you have these 6'3" kids backing down people in the paint, have no guard skills, no ball handling, anything. Then they get to the next level, and they're a small dude on the court, and
Doesn't
they only
work.
have like big guy moves.
Right. You can't really play at a high college level at 6'3" as a center. They're 6'11", 7 foot.
You got to be 7 feet tall.
So my dad knew that. I was probably about 5'8", 5'10", somewhere around there going into my freshman year of high school. But I did
still pretty tall.
Yeah, I mean, one of the taller kids on the team, but not the tallest by any means. I played JV as a freshman, started JV, was a point guard, and then my freshman summer is when I hit a growth spurt. So I think it was about my sophomore year is when I was probably about 6'4", 6'5", but I had all those guard skills, so I mean it worked. It's what my dad wanted, is me to be able to play guard and have mismatches. I could go down low if I needed to. If you put a small guard on me, I'd take you to the block. You put your big man on me, and I'll pull you out and just shoot or drive or whatever. There was kind of some emotional abuse there with basketball, just really, really hard on me with basketball. You know,
that was your guys' like connection.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was everything our relationship revolved around was basketball. I mean, it was to the point where I would, during halftime of games, I would go to my dad to get coached versus my coaches. He coached me when I was younger. Obviously, I'd listen to the huddle, but then I would go to my dad or, you know, when I was playing travel ball, we would have multiple games a day. So, you know, a game would finish and I would sit there with my dad till our next game and he would, I would say coach, but he would definitely criticize. He would never tell me what I did good. I could have a great game, but he would find the 3 things I did wrong that game. And I look back and it came from a good place in his heart. And I think it truly probably was a positive. It definitely made me grow as a player because I'd never focused on what I did good. I always felt like I could get better at something. But it did start to hinder me to the point where when I was junior, you know, I'd look in the stands to see his reactions, and it just became a hindrance. And at that point, he was sober, so he noticed what he did, so he kept his nose out of it. He would talk to me after the game and be like, I saw X, Y, Z that you could have done, you know, but you played a great game, but here you could have done this. He approached it the way that you probably should approach it.
Okay.
But the issue was it was already burnt into my head that I couldn't make him happy.
It was too late.
Right. Until my senior year,
Damn, that's tough.
He pretty much told me, like, dude, quit. So, you know, I was like, you know what, fuck it. I don't care what he thinks. And I would play.
I'm still ball out.
And, yeah, so I'm kind of like veering off the childhood, but that was a large part of the childhood was basketball.
Your relationship with your father at that point.
Right. Just being at home, like, you know, he'd get drunk and stuff. I didn't know if he was going to be happy dad and taking me and my buddies to McDonald's at 12 at night, which is probably a bad thing because he was drunk, so he's drunk driving. But I didn't know any better, you know.
Would you say that you were kind of walking on eggshells with him around the house during his
addiction? Yeah,
addiction?
absolutely. The whole family was. Parents would argue a lot, and I thought I was the cause of it. My mom, for her job, had to travel a lot, so I'd get left home with my dad.
Oh, wow.
For a month, sometimes, longest 6 weeks.
Would you mind going into what you just said a second ago? Like, you know, you thought you were the cause of him drinking. Like, what? Can you go into that a little bit?
I think it's just the world revolves around you as a kid, right? Like, you, for whatever reason, you think you're the cause of a lot of things when you're not. I think it's hard to understand what your parents are going through and stuff, you know, until you're an adult and you realize, like, oh, they got
for sure
bills and
stress,
all this other stuff. You know, it's not the kid that's causing it, but you just kind of feel like you're the cause, right?
Like you generally lack perspective.
Yeah, that's all it is.
You can't really understand as a kid the whole scope of things. So the only few things that you do know is like when I do something wrong, I get chewed out. So when he's mad, it's got to have something to do with me.
Right, exactly. He wasn't ever physical with me until I was 18, and it was interesting because he was sober at that point, but I was using. But yeah, like I was saying, though, my mom would travel around, so
6 weeks at a time.
A lot of trauma there where I would be calling her, like, Dad's drinking again, he's doing shooters, he forgot to pick my brother up, or he forgot to pick me up, and just a lot of things with that. And that ended up really affecting me later in life because my mom had to leave for a long period of time for work. And my dad was clean at the time, but when she left, it reverted. I remember we were on a vacation before she was leaving, and I never really experienced anxiety in my life until that week. And I was getting really bad anxiety, and I was scared, and I didn't understand why. And it wasn't until I got sober in rehab that I really started to put 2 and 2 together what happened there. And I'll go into that more later. But yeah, I mean, basically I had a good childhood, you know. I mean,
outside of your dad drinking, it was pretty
wasn't physically abusive, you know, none of that. So never abused my mom. Like I said, it was a lot of emotional abuse in the house.
Okay. You had told this story to me a couple weeks back about kind of where it all started was on this trip to Mexico, correct?
Yeah, so even in, you know, middle school and stuff, I was starting to hang out with the wrong crowd. They had older brothers and stuff. I'd been just, you know, at the house with the little brother, and the older brother would throw parties and everything. Didn't use or anything. We would just kind of hang, play some video games, go to bed, normal stuff, 7th, 8th grade. 9th grade rolled around, and one of those buddies, I went to Mexico with his family, and I said, yeah, you know what, I'll try drinking and do a little drinking here, smoke some weed. So that was really the first time I did. I liked it, but it was nothing
that grabbed you.
No, not at all. And I was always terrified of like alcohol because it runs in my mom's side of the family has alcoholism. My dad's side of the family has alcoholism.
Even when you were young, you knew that there was like that fuse in you ready to be lit?
Yeah. Yeah, I was pretty aware of it. My parents, they weren't helicopter parents. They knew I was probably going to go out and try things. You know, they wanted to be safe about it, but it wasn't really a rebellion thing where I was like, oh, my parents don't let me do anything. I'm going to go try drugs. Like, my mom would be like, if you're going to do it, like, just be safe about it.
Wow.
Yeah, so we were in Mexico, and I think it was like a couple days in, we were down in downtown, like outside the resort. It wasn't like Mexico City, but it was a city in Mexico outside the resort.
Yeah, I get it.
Not where tourists should be, let's say, especially a bunch of
Little white
young
boys.
white boys walking around. Luckily for us, the cartel and stuff wasn't huge at the time. It wasn't quite the threat it is now, I would say. You probably wouldn't want to definitely do it now with how crazy it's gotten down there, but it still probably wouldn't be recommended to do what we were doing. But we went to a bar. We were watching some baseball, having a couple of beers, and the owner came up and just asked us if we liked the game, and I said, yeah, you know, we're from Colorado, the Rockies are on, and that was it. We really talked a little bit, and then the older brother was talking with him, and he, I guess, which I didn't know at the time, but I found out later, they started talking about how there's a massage parlor, and the brother wanted to go check it out. So the following night, we went by there, grabbed a couple drinks. The brother was like, all right, let's go hit up this massage parlor. And I was like, all right, you know, cool, whatever. I'll go get a massage. Well, we're driving, and I'm like, this is weird. Like, we're going down to
So you had to leave the resort to get to this massage
Oh,
parlor.
yeah. I wouldn't say it was slums of Mexico, but it wasn't nice.
It wasn't a resort.
It was dirt roads,
running
chickens running
the street,
around,
yeah.
like...
I mean, that sounds, just from the outside looking in, man, you know, you got these three little white boys, you know, leaving the resort in probably a cab, a car, somebody you don't know who's driving that car,
Right.
taking you out of the resort to someplace far away that you don't know. That sounds like the recipe for trafficking, dog.
That's got ransom written all over it.
It does. And the thing is, like, the resort has cab drivers that they usually are employed, so
Right.
that's who most tourists use. So
Yeah,
we
for
actually got outside of the resort and then got a local cab driver in order to take us there. So we walk up, and I come in, and I was like, I knew something was off, like, once we pulled up to this place. But anyways, we walk in, and I figured out rather quickly this is a brothel. We walk up, it's a little old lady sitting at a desk, and she's like...
Was she cute?
She's old. No,
I've seen some cute old ladies.
I'm talking like 70, bro.
Damn.
Like,
Experience.
oh, yeah, she been in the game for a while. The older brother is like paid, and she's like, all right, we'll go pick a girl. And you walked into almost like a living room, and it was a big couch and all these girls, and they're in like lingerie. And I was like, what the fuck? Like,
Reminds me of that Rush Hour 2 scene. Remember when he walks in there?
Yeah.
You don't jump in front of a black man in a buffet line?
yeah. So the brother picks the girl and leaves and goes in.
No
her room.
hesitation. Just
No hesitation.
Boom, boom.
I mean, you gotta. He was 16 or 17.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I get it. But I was young, so, and a virgin. You know, I messed around with some girls, but hadn't gone that far yet. So this old lady's just like badgering me, like, and my buddy, and finally my buddy gave in, and I'm kind of just sitting out there like, well, this is fucking awkward. She's still badgering me, and finally I was like, fuck it. So I went in.
She wanted those US dollars out of you, boy.
Yeah. Yeah. She wanted the US dollars, and you get more in pesos.
Get more in pesos, exactly. Goes
But,
20 times further.
Yeah, so I go in the room, and she massages me, and then I remember she flips me over, and it was just like, I don't know how to explain it, like just tunnel vision.
Now, did you fool around with this girl, or did you lose your virginity to this woman?
No, that's what I was getting. I lost my virginity to her.
Okay.
So that's how I lost my virginity. And you know, to be honest, like, we left, fucking idiots. We spent all our money, so now we had to figure out how to get back to the
Didn't
resort
take into
3 hours
consideration
away.
that you got to pay for the ride
Yeah,
back.
so now we're on the local bus with all the
Those crooks.
all the locals, 3 white boys on the local bus, can't speak a lick of Spanish, like, so we get back to the resort. A day passes, and I'm kind of like still like in a daze about it, like, what the hell? And I was pretty fucked up when I went and did it, right? So, but then later that trip, we
What part of Mexico is this in? Do you remember? And like maybe like the resort name too. Not that like I want to go, but so I can stay away from it in the future.
Yeah. Lying.
You liar.
I want to say Cancun.
Okay. I can't afford that. I mean, not that I want to.
Yeah, no, you could afford to get to the brothel. It's not that expensive. So if you want to go check it out, I mean.
What did something like that cost in US dollars? What did your virginity cost?
$75. Nothing crazy.
Man. Okay. That's
Yeah.
doable. So you get back to the resort.
Yeah,
And you said even the security at the resort was like, how the heck were you out
What
there?
were you guys
like,
doing?
yeah.
Like, because normally you pull up in a fucking cab, dude. And we come walking up.
Paid for by the resort.
We could only, the bus only took us so close to the resort, and then we had to walk a couple miles to the resort.
What time of night was this?
11:30 at night.
Oh my God.
Just
dude.
Not a good idea.
You were asking for it, bro.
I wanted to go do that in downtown Los Angeles now at this age.
Much
Much less Mexico.
In the hood. And then what happens next that night?
We just went to bed, and then we woke up the next morning, and the brother wanted to go get weed, so we went down to a beach.
This is a good story.
And all three of us walk on the beach, and these two guys who are running a jet ski company come running over to us, and they're like, do you guys want to ride jet skis? And we're like, no. And they kind of got the hint, like we were looking for
Did they
something.
say it like that, though, Taylor?
Yeah. So it
Or were
started
they more
with,
like, do you guys want to drag some jet skis?
you guys want to drive some jet skis? Yeah, something like that.
The podcast was fun while it lasted.
Yeah. But no, they have their accent, but we're like, no. And they kind of put two and together, like, they're looking for something else. So they're like, do you guys want that? Oh my God, I forgot about this. They're like, do you guys want jungle juice? Or it wasn't even called that, dude. It was
The Mexican jungle juice?
yes, but it was in like a fucking balloon, and it was like dark red. And
Sounds
I
safe.
looked at that shit, and I was like, no. Like,
I'm not drinking
that
that.
shit's going to kill me for real. I don't know what that is. And they're like, well, we can get you anything. Like, what do you want? And we're like, we're looking for ganja. And they were like, okay, come with us. And they're like, you guys want a 40? And we're like, yeah. And they're like, since you guys are buying from us, like, just go take the jet skis, drive around and whatever they do, they make their calls. And I'm convinced it was the cartel, and I'll get to why at the end.
So just to paint the picture, you're like 14 years old, 40 ounces of beer on jet skis.
On jet
Just lost
skis.
your virginity.
Yeah, nice area at this point. It's still like right down from the resort. There's a real nice bar right there, like an outdoor bar that a lot of the tourists go to. So it's a nice area, but they're not stupid. They
It was
know.
systematic, man. They knew what they were doing.
They
They
know
were
what the
offering
tour.
drugs to the tourists.
Older people, I'm sure, coming for cocaine and stuff. So I finished writing it because they call us in like it's here, and the craziest part is there's a cop that was standing there the whole time.
Get the hell out of here.
A federale.
Federale.
Yep. And he watched it all. I was like,
That makes sense. That sounds like when I think of Mexico, that's exactly what I
yeah,
think
and
of.
I
right
was
there.
like, it's the cartel. Like, they're paying him off.
For sure.
Like, there's no way. I mean, it was a
Blatant.
grocery bag full of weed.
Was it ganja good weed?
No, brick weed, and we spent like $100. So
Just
I hop
trash
off the
weed.
jet ski, and one of them walks up, and he pops open my seat, and I look over, and he throws something in there, and in there's a brick. And I couldn't tell you exactly what it was, but it was a brick of whether it was coke or weed, I don't know. But it was a brick sitting in my jet ski I was driving that whole time. And then he cruises it off to the island, and we leave. So we go home, and we start stashing the weed everywhere, and we're smoking it and stuff. They have their shops all over the place, and they sell pipes everywhere down there. So we go and buy ourselves a little pipe. The week kind of goes on, and we went somewhere, and we came back a couple days later, and then the mom pulls us into the laundry room, and she's like, hey, I found your guys' stash. And we were like,
crap.
fuck. And we thought for sure we were like in trouble.
Stash.
That's key, because it was everywhere. But she found one, and then she was like, this is terrible weed. And we were like, yeah, we know.
Damn.
And then she pulled out her own little prescription bottle of weed that she
What
brought.
a trip, bro.
And she
What an
was
entire
like-
vacation.
She's like, you guys can just smoke the rest of this. And that's when like I really realized like, whoa, weeds, I like it. I got back, and my parents kind of realized I was with the wrong crowd, so they had me transfer schools. And I kind of was steering in the right direction for my sophomore year for sure. Most of my junior year, I started dabbling around some more, smoking weed, partying. Halfway through junior year, though, I really started to party.
But all this time, you were still playing basketball, too.
Oh, yeah.
High level, too,
Varsity, right? Traveling around, played Manuel Moutier, a couple
NBA players,
yeah. Oh, yeah. High end. Yeah, so I would party, you know. I mean, it was just the typical jock.
Right.
Fucking barely do what I needed to do to get by in school. Play basketball, party, sleep around, that sort of thing. You know, I mean, in those areas, it's real easy to party. It's a lot of kids with parents who have a lot of money, and they travel a lot for their jobs, so they're gone all the time, and they have big-ass houses where parents aren't home, and
I will tell you what,
gated communities, so you would show up and party in these gated communities, have acreage, so there's no one else around, so cops don't get called, and, you know.
When I was in high school, dude, so downtown Springs, I went to Palmer High School, but I remember those rich kids down there at Cheyenne Mountain High School, dude. They always had the best parties. They always had the best drugs. They always had the best everything. So luckily I knew a couple people that went there, so I got a little taste of that, but otherwise I would have never experienced. So I know exactly what you're talking about, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bunch of kids who we get allowances, and my family did well, but compared to my buddies, like, they had, like, real money, and it's what you see where the kids just get handed cash, and like you were saying, you know, when you have the money to go buy the best drugs, you got the best drugs around, extremely easy to get booze, a couple people with fake IDs. So yeah, and partying in mansions of parents' houses. Some of them, parents moved out of state, and they
all the freedom in the world, all the money
lived there with like an uncle who would party with us. Some parents would party with us and just allow us all to come over. So yeah, that was pretty much all of my junior year into senior year of high school.
And so would you say at that point in your life, things really started to get a little bit out of control?
No, not out of control. I was smoking weed every day, junior year of high school. Yeah, ditching a lot of class. Still doing enough, though, to get by in class.
Just the bare minimum.
Bare minimum. But I still was really focused on basketball. I mean, I didn't smoke weed before practice, none of that. It was always post-practice or in the morning, and by the time practice rolled around, wasn't stoned anymore.
Right.
And, you know, I was getting scholarships for basketball and stuff.
D1 offers,
Couple D1s, a lot of D2s. Yeah, so then my junior or senior year, I was at one of those house parties, and I wasn't drinking. I wasn't a huge drinker, really, until I got to college. For whatever reason, I really was just I was a little pothead running around. But I had an ounce on me. I kind of started to sling a little bit. I had a couple buddies who had their med cards, and that was before it was recreational, so they had medical cards, so I would give them half the amount, go buy me an ounce, and I would sell off a half ounce, and I'd smoke for free. I went to a house party, brought my ounce, was going to sell it. Well, come to find out, the kid's parents sold the house, and shit. I should have noticed because there was no fucking furniture in the house when I got there. But
bare bones.
I didn't care. Yeah, I just went to the basement, and we're all playing beer pong and stuff, and I remember I started hearing dogs, and I see the lights like flashing all outside. I'm like, and 2 girls run down. They're like, "There's 3 cops at the door." So everyone's like, "Don't answer, don't answer." And I was like, "Yeah, wait it out." I mean, because there's been parties where it's happened where we've had cops, you know, hit the door, and we just fucking shut everything down and just sit there.
Oh, really?
And just wait it out, and they'll leave because they didn't really have a reason to be able to just bust in the house. But these dudes busted into the house because it was called in as a robbery. And I remember hearing them like hop down into a window cellar, and I saw them, and I just instantly, it was an unfinished basement, so there was, what's it called? Not drywall, but what's behind drywall.
Like the insulation?
Insulation. So I punched a hole in the insulation and just shoved all my shit into the wall and then just covered it up. And
now, how many people are at this party?
It was probably only like 15 of us.
Okay.
But they have us all sitting in a living room. And
that's a hard move, by the way.
Yeah.
Let's not move past that. That was some real.
It was smart.
Right.
Quick thinking, bro.
They smelled weed, obviously, because we were all smoking in the garage, but they couldn't find it, and no one was saying where it was. Well, it was my weed, and it was sitting in a fucking wall. But they ran everyone's names, and a couple people popped up as
having warrants,
and yeah, that sort of thing. Anyways, I talked my way out of it. Got the MIP, but was able to.
Didn't you say one of your buddies snuck out?
Yeah, so while we were all sitting in the living room, so the way the upstairs was, there was what are those called? The bathroom connection.
Oh, yeah.
So the cops were walking
Adam
in.
and Eve.
Yeah, and he followed the cop like a
Jack
room
and
behind,
Jill's.
and then you walked out of that last room, and it was stairs, front door. And he followed the cop all behind, and then the cop brought us all downstairs because I remember I ran upstairs after I did what I did, and I went to the master room, and I was like, oh, fuck it, I'm hiding in the closet. And I opened the master bedroom, there's everybody sitting in the closet. And I was like, well, I guess we're all going down together. So we all sit there. And we almost got away with it. The cop, first cop opened, and he like flashed his light in there, and he was like, clear. And the other cop was like,
What?
Check behind the door. And I heard that, and we all just like, fuck. So he looks behind the door, and we're all just like cuddled up into a corner
Little
together.
tight space right there.
Yeah, so they pull us all downstairs, and then, I'm sitting there, and the cops are facing all of us, and I watch my buddy walk right out the front door, and we were all like,
Did he really just do that?
No way.
Sometimes the best way to be sneaky is to not be sneaky
Yeah.
at all. Just
Act like
right
you
under
are.
the nose, bro.
Everyone else was pissed about it, but I was like,
I'd have been hating, bro.
I was happy, bro. I was like, that's my ride. Like, I'm not calling my parents. Yeah.
I'm going to get to him.
So and I was planning on staying at that kid's house that night. So I got out of there, and I called him, and he came and picked me up, and I had the MIP, went to court for it, got pulled in, and they're like, why aren't you fighting this? And I was like, I don't know. And they're like, well, everyone said you were the only one not drinking. So they basically ended up giving me 5 hours of community service and sealed it, which was a big deal for me that they sealed that, because I probably might have lost scholarships because of it. Who knows? I mean, I'm sure a lot of kids get MIPs that go and play college basketball.
That really could screw something up for you.
Yeah.
It's possible.
Didn't learn much from that.
Did you face any other legal
I did.
issues?
So senior year, I had a buddy who I grew up with when I was real young. He left the state, but then he came back. And I remember I was walking from one of our buildings in school, and he walked by me, and I was like, what? Like, and he looked at me, and I was like, no way. Like, he didn't even tell me to move back. And he was kind of in the same shit I was, just smoking and stuff. So we were able to actually walk to his house from our school, so we would just constantly ditch and get high. And one day, I don't remember, it was weekend. I think it was the weekend for sure. He called me and was like, yo, can you pick me up? Like, I want to pawn some stuff. And I was like, yeah, sure, cool.
Not thinking anything of it.
No, so I pick him up and asked him what it was. He was like, it's just one of my like little gold chains that I have. And I was like, all right, whatever, dude. So we walked in the pawn shop, and I kind of sat down in the back while he talked to the pawn lady. And she didn't buy it. So he was like, we leave, and he's like, let's go to a jewelry shop. And I was like, all right. So we start driving, and I get a call from my dad, and he's like, where the fuck are you at? And I was like, I don't know, I made up some shit. And he's like, well, I'm here with the police, get your ass back here. And I was like, fuck. So I dropped him off because
When you went to sell it, did you use your ID to sell it? What happened?
No, it was all him.
He sold it himself.
Yeah, or tried to. We never actually were able to sell it, but it didn't matter. It was the intent.
Right.
So they were able to charge you with the intent.
Now, just real quick question on, like, was your buddy like into real drugs or something? That sounds like some real druggy behavior. Or was he just smoking weed and just wanted some money?
Smoking weed, and he wanted some shrooms and stuff, so.
And what was he trying to pawn?
Well, I didn't find out till later, but the reason I dropped him off is we had like 3 grams of wax on us, and at the time that was a felony. That was before wax was legal, unless you had a medical card. So I dropped him off, and I come to the station, I tell my story, and the cop's like, all right, go home. Basically, you have a warrant out. Whenever we need to come pick you up after we square this all away, we will. It's like, all right, whatever. So I go home, and that's the one time my dad did get physical with me and threw me on the couch and just like, what the fuck were you thinking, blah, blah, blah. And I'm sitting there, and my mom gets home from work, and then we get a call from the officer, and he's like, I need you guys to come down to the station now.
Must have been the longest drive of your life, huh?
Me and my mom get to the station, and he starts playing hardball with me, the cop. And I'm like, bro, like, I was like, I had no idea, da-da-da. And he's like threatening to arrest me and charge me. And then that's when it came out. It was a tennis bracelet with like 16, 17 diamonds on it. Probably 15, 20, I don't know. A lot of thousands of dollars worth. And the parents decided to press charges on the kid because they just had enough. Like, he had been just
screwing
a
up
fuck
before.
off for a while.
Yeah.
And my mom starts crying, like, don't take my baby, like, blah, blah, blah. And that was honestly the only thing that I was really, like, felt bad about. Like, I really didn't give a shit that I was going to, like, maybe juvie or something. It was my mom. Well, after a while, the cop quits playing hardball, and he's like, they had audio, and we realized, like,
he was just trying to get some extra info out of you.
yeah, and I was
Wow.
just like, he's like, when we listen to audio and watch tapes, like, you literally were sitting in the back and didn't even see what was going on. So I skated off with that one.
Ooh.
Senior year goes on.
You're playing basketball, so now
Playing
now you're
basketball.
getting ready to go to college. You got D1 offers, playing good ball, really good ball.
Yeah.
But something happened with you and your coach that ended up completely screwing up what you had going for you.
Yeah, so I ended up getting a concussion my senior year, and he coached another sport, I don't know, but one of the kids on the other sport basically told him that I was faking my concussion and still partying and stuff, which partying was true. Faking my concussion was
You're
not
being
true.
ignorant.
Yeah.
Big difference.
So he called me out on it, and it was like 3 games left in the season, and then I got really pissed off, and I knew I was out the rest of the year. And I think I might have also had an ankle injury at that point. That's what it was, actually. It was my ankle that was keeping me out. There was like a fracture or something in it, so I couldn't play. So I went in and quit with 3 games left, caused quite the ripple, and he got mad and deleted all my film. So all the college coaches no longer had my film, which in turn I lost all my scholarships from that.
Just like total revenge, huh?
Yep. And it
Damn.
kind of worked out because I ended up having a full ankle reconstruction at the end of my senior year anyways, so I would have had a red shirt wherever I went to go play.
Red shirt meaning you had to sit out the first year of college and just basically.
Yeah, it would have been
check
a
everything
medical
off.
red shirt, which is different than a red shirt.
Oh, really?
So a red shirt, you can redshirt as a freshman, which gives you 4 more years after that to
Eligibility.
play. If I would have medical red shirt, I could have probably still redshirted my sophomore year. But the thing is, I was going to start wherever I went and played at. I mean, some of those D1s I probably would have came off the bench and stuff, but if I would have went to one of the D2s, I was going to start.
Absolutely.
And there was still one coach who was still going to take me, but it was a private school, and they couldn't technically hand out scholarships, and there just wasn't enough money to justify. I was still paying a ton of money to go play there, and I was like, I'm just not going to do it. So he told me to go walk on at the college that I ended up attending, which is Metro in Denver. By the time I enrolled, it was too late to walk on. And then that's really when my partying started to take off, which I think is normal. It's college, you know, I'm living on my own. Just broke up with a long-term girlfriend, so I was just like...
Were you working? Were your parents financially helping you?
No, I was school full-time, parents financially helping me. It was kind of the agreement that if I get good grades, they'll pay for stuff.
Okay.
And I did my freshman year. I got actually really good grades, but it's fucking gen eds, dude.
That's when you
Some
could see the trend going up and then
Dipshit
drop
can
right there.
go
Yeah.
do good in gen eds, like...
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm just partying, sleeping around, doing whatever I'm doing. Sophomore year, grades started to dip. Parents pulled me, basically gave me an ultimatum. I move home or I get
Why did they start to dip?
just partying too much, drinking, drugging.
Missing school?
Yeah, I would ditch class. Not a lot. That didn't really happen until my junior year. I was still rooming with my best friend, and then my best friend transferred my sophomore year. So all of my buddies were up at CSU. So what happened is my junior year, I just started to just ditch school and just go up to CSU and just fucking party up there all the time.
What was that one story you told me when you blacked out one time and remember being up there and getting text the next morning?
Denver, drinking, did a lot of Xanax, partied, went up to Boulder, don't remember. Woke up the next morning, saw Snapchat that I was in Boulder.
Everyone was telling you
No
that they had a...
recollection?
None at
Everybody
all.
said they had a good time with you
Yeah.
and you didn't even remember it.
Nope. And I mean, that wasn't an uncommon thing for me to go around, not all the way up to Boulder, but not to have a recollection of my whole night. I would drink all night, snort painkillers, fucking...
And so was there like a level of like addiction at this point, or was it just like just general use of party drugs and stuff like that?
Smoking weed every day, all day. Definitely an addiction there. I will argue to teeth
You're
and
blue in
nail.
the face. We've had this conversation.
That-
I believe it,
before.
dude.
I believe weed's addictive. And I wasn't
100%.
smoking weed. It was high amounts of edibles, dabs. I didn't smoke weed. It was all extracts. So 90% THC. I will argue tooth and nail that weed's addictive. But
You don't even smoke weed nowadays, do you?
no. That
Let's
was
go.
my biggest vice for sure. But that also followed every night of drinking. And then when I start drinking, I start going to do coke or, like I said, snorting painkillers.
The roommates you were living with were tapped into the black market, correct?
Not mine, but we had a hall that were all tapped into the black market, so I had access to premium coke, all the pills I could want, all sorts of psychedelics.
Did you then go get your own drugs off the black market?
I did.
And that's when you got real coke for the first time.
No.
No?
So I never got coke myself off the black market. My roommates had a real good friend who always hung there who did. So that's why I always had that coke around. No. But I did go get about an ounce of Molly off the black market to go sell. It got intercepted. Got a pink slip in the mail. Didn't do that again.
What does the pink slip say?
Pretty much like...
We know what you're doing, knock that shit off.
Yeah, like, this isn't, we're not gonna...
Bro, you had to deliver to yourself?
No, well, it's like a dorm, so like there's mailboxes, but it gets, the way they package it, it got just sent to the office itself. So there's 500 kids in there, and we had, you know, our IP address, like, pinging somewhere else,
never
like
come
everything.
back to you.
But
exactly.
It wasn't worth the resources for like an ounce of Molly, so they pretty much were like, don't do this shit again. Like, so I didn't. But it didn't matter. I still had all the access from everyone else, and I was real good buddies with all of them. So I mean, I didn't pay much for any of it. So yeah, I kind of just did whatever was around. If it was Xanax, I did that. If it was Klonopins, I did that. If it was coke, I did that. I would dab cocaine, basically doing crack.
Tell me about that one time that you did ketamine.
Did ketamine, went out for a long night, started drinking early, did some Xanax, ended up at a house party. A bunch of my buddies, they done ketamine multiple times, and they were always like, do it. And I was like, no, I'm good. Snorting a lot of painkillers at a house.
Just doing everything.
While drinking. We get back, and I'm just like super fucked up. And that was my sophomore year of high school, or college. Still with my best friend. Go to the buddy's room, we're all smoking. They were like, you want to try it? And I was like, fuck it. Yeah, you know what? I'll do it. Did a snort, and I remember, and then my roommate did it with me, and I remember I sat there for about 2 minutes, and I looked at him, and I was like,
sums off.
Fuck.
This is not
like,
gonna be fun.
I'm going to be really, 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 really fucked up. So I walked down the hall to my room, and he followed. I'm sitting at my computer, and I wanted to stand up to go grab something, but I couldn't. My legs and brain weren't connected.
For people that don't understand, ketamine is a dissociative drug, and you can essentially fall into what's called a K-hole, which you're basically paralyzed. And I've heard people tell tremendously fun stories about ketamine or horrendous stories. And in Johnny's case, it was horrendous.
It was horrendous, but I think a lot of it had to do with alcohol. I found out that it's extremely fatal with alcohol.
Ooh, you lucked out.
So me and my roommate fell asleep together in the same bed. We had another kid there, and I told him, like, I need you to check on me through the night, because I found this out while I was on ketamine, like how fatal it could be.
Which must have just freaked you out even more.
Not really. I was so disassociated that it was kind of like, yeah, like I'm in it now. But he tried to wake me up through the night, and I was barely breathing. Like, that was probably the closest I've ever been to an OD.
Damn,
for
dude.
Sure. So I've never touched ketamine again.
Tell us where this comes to like a head as far as your usage goes.
I mean, this was all the good times, I would say. A lot of young, dumb, partying, chicks.
Strip clubs,
having fun.
$10,000 in one day.
Underage most of the time, too,
wow.
Mind you. Junior years when I hit 21 and it went off the rails. Go to the liquor store. Like I said, I was always up in Fort Collins partying all the time. We were selling just money all over the place. Didn't have a job, so I'd spend the summer up there and just
having
wake
the time
up,
of your life.
Party, sleep, party, wake up, lift. Same shit every day. I failed out of school my junior year, and my parents pretty much told me we're done paying for school. Go get a full-time job unless you want to pay for school yourself. So I said, all right, cool, fuck it, I'll go get a full-time job. So I started working at a restaurant and stuff, just for third use. That's how restaurants are. Started selling blow for a little bit while I was doing that. And then COVID hit, and I was doing some electrical and stuff with my boss, and he would do blow and stuff. And I just remember late into COVID.
You were doing electrical work.
But everything shut down for a week. Even electrical, that first initial week where everyone shut down.
Right.
And I just like off the rails, dude. Like every day,
just doubling back real quick, man, to what you were saying about like doing electrical work. I did that. I did electrical piecework for a couple of years, and I know that it was nothing for us to get up, go get our rough packs for the day, get our day lined up, go to the gas station, pick up a 24-pack of beer, and then just drink the entire day. And then, I mean, did you guys ever do anything like that?
No, we didn't drink during the day. I would still smoking weed all day, every day. So I would be high all day, do some coke during the day, but 3 o'clock hit and it was bar till 7.
Without fail.
Without fail. And double vodka, 6 of those motherfuckers, and then go home every day. And then after COVID hit, I was at home for a week straight, so I started drinking at 9 in the morning, 10 in the morning, just play video games all day and just be fucking plastered. And my parents would call me out and, oh, I'm not drunk, blah, blah, blah. Mind you, I have a recovering dad sitting at home.
He knows all the signs.
Yeah. So then it was like late in the year of COVID that I was with my soon-to-be wife now, and she kind of brought it up to me a few times, but I don't really know what snapped. Like, I just told my life, like, falling apart. Like, she was probably going to leave me and shit, so I just told her, like, I need help.
Your girlfriend do any drugs, any substance abuse history?
No, not at all.
Straight shooter?
Straight shooter.
From the stories we've been told, a phenomenal woman.
Yeah.
Yes. And she said, all right, let's go talk to your parents. So we drove to my house, and I just told my parents, like, I need to go to rehab. I was like, AA won't work, outpatient's not going to work, like, I need to go somewhere.
So you voluntarily put yourself into rehab?
Yeah.
They didn't force you?
No, and it was inpatient.
That almost never happens.
And I told them it has to be inpatient. Or
These outpatient programs make the program worse. If anything, the outpatient programs, dude, you go meet other drug addicts there that further your drug use.
It
was insane, bro.
It was going to be a waste of their
money.
money.
Those outpatient rehabs, dude, will have drug dealers waiting outside of them, dude. It's insane, bro. It never works, but so good on you for saying inpatient.
So, yeah, we called the rehab I went to. They actually just had a COVID outbreak, so they shut down, and they're like, he can come in 3 days when we reopen. So I called my 2 best friends up and was like, I'm going to rehab on whatever day it was.
Let's go out one of the big bang.
Let's go. Fucking send it, boys. So we went to the bar and just got fucking blitzed, and drank all the way up till rehab. On the way to rehab, the morning before.
Knowing all well that you were going to give it your all when you went to rehab, correct?
Yep.
You had no doubt you weren't being forced to go there. You know, you were ready mentally to get clean, and you were going to use that opportunity to really straighten up.
Yeah, and just had this weird mindset of like, this is it. Like, fuck it.
Get yours in, because after this, it's going to straighten up.
I mean, what were y'all doing during that last 3 days? Coke, alcohol,
I was doing everything, yeah. And then the morning of, I woke up pretty hungover, had a bottle of tequila sitting in my room, cracked that real quick, took a couple swigs, ate 200 milligrams of edibles, hopped in the car, and went to rehab. Did a 35 days stint in rehab, missed Thanksgiving and Christmas, got out.
What was it like in rehab with everybody in there? I imagine this was certain people's 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th time.
Oh, yeah, it was interesting.
Because the numbers coming out of rehab aren't that good. They're not in your favor.
Just
Statistically, you're not going to stay sober.
In general, it's a 75%
relapse rate.
Relapse rate, yeah, right. So I was one of the youngest. There was maybe 2 other kids younger than me in there. A lot of late 30s, 40s, all the way up to 60s. Like you said, multiple stints in rehab. Some of them, 2nd stint at that rehab in the same year. And, you know, a lot of people didn't like me there. I came in and told them, like, I won't be back.
Getting it right the first time.
Yeah.
Which
they were
never
like,
happens.
That's too cocky, you know, you're already leading yourself
With
down.
that mentality, you will be back. You'll be the first one back.
Yeah, pretty much. And I said no, and one of the guys pulled me aside, and that's what he said to me, and I told him, this is my program, and I don't want you to fuck with it. And the funny part is I still keep in touch with that guy to this day. And he has relapsed a few times, even now. Yeah, but I did my 35 days. I got out.
What was it like adjusting to life, fresh out of rehab, you know, getting sober? Was that rough for you?
Kinda. So I had a great therapist in rehab. So we set up a whole plan for when I got out. I moved back in with my parents again. Did the IOP program, which was all via Zoom. So from my house. So 6 hours a day. I was in a IOP program for 3 months. Parents didn't make me work because the therapist was like, let him just get, you know, his feet under him, sober, back to baseline. So I did all that, and then I decided I was going to go back to college. I'm going to get my master's degree.
In what?
Social work.
Social work.
Get my clinical LCSW.
Let's go, bro.
Probably going to work with addiction, if not children, because I think a lot of addiction's a symptom of childhood trauma. I don't think it's the issue.
These are the aspirations that we were referring to earlier in the podcast.
Yeah.
You know, somewhere down the line, you're gonna go try and get, a social work job, and they're gonna say, oh, well, he does Kratom. You know, we're not gonna let him in on this. So yeah,
It's actually a good place to kind of been here. Where did you discover Kratom Kava and all this? Was this after rehab, right?
No,
afterwards?
didn't do anything for about a year, but then I had to go get a surgery and got some painkillers, which I took as needed. And then I ran out of painkillers, was still in pain, and then I heard about Kratom somehow. I don't even really remember how. So I did Kratom to help me with the pain.
you could have probably easily went and found some painkillers on the street or something, huh?
Yeah, terrified of that though with the fentanyl nowadays. Never would do that. I could have gone back to the doctor.
That's what I was saying. You probably could have just gone in like, I'm still in a lot of pain.
Yeah,
You
easily.
feel it again without a blinking an eye.
Yeah, I could have gotten them refilled right away. I just didn't want to. So I did Kratom for a little bit, got off of it. There was a kava bar in Denver by my school. And I'd go by there like once, maybe a month, like not even. Did kava a bit, didn't do really any of it again. And then just struggled with anxiety and stuff. So would do Kratom for anxiety. Ended up getting a second surgery, so I used Kratom again for that. But, I'm weird. I hop on and off of it pretty often.
Only use it when you really need it.
Yeah, I have a very addictive personality, so for me, like, anything, it only takes so long till I'm
You
like...
really have to keep everything in check because it'll go down that road.
It'll spin out of control. I mean, and I've not that I've ever, my life's never been out of control with Kratom, but it's only helped me. But just for me personally, now that I don't have injuries or anything and anxiety's under control, I really don't use it anymore, but I think it's a great tool for people, whether it's pain, anxiety. I would even say it as far as withdrawals. For my journey, I don't know if it would have been a good idea fresh out of rehab to go do Kratom. I think it might have made me crave other things. It's a great thing for people, for sure. And like I said, if you're, gonna withdrawal at home and not under medical attention and stuff,
Kratom's
probably a good
to do it.
idea to do Kratom,
That's the way I
100%,
did it.
especially if it's opiates. But like I said, if you go, to an inpatient rehab and everything, and you come out and you're 30 days off everything, I'd say give it a couple months, and if your anxiety's still not that great,
Those cravings
go
are
give
still
it a shot.
kicking your ass.
Right.
Exactly.
But I wouldn't say do it right away. Try living a little bit, see how it is fully sober, make sure that, you got your shit under control. And I mean, I could say that about anything, coffee, cigarettes, anything, I mean, you drink too much coffee, bro, you're going to look like a crackhead walking around, like as simple as that. So everything in moderation, everyone's body's different. Mine reacts great to it. However, if I take it too many days in a row and stuff, I do notice I don't get as great of effect, which is just tolerance, right? That's anything. So for me, that's why I take a lot of breaks. But I think it's a great tool for a lot of people, especially if you have severe pain and stuff. I'd rather you do a kilo of Kratom a day than go get on opiates.
100%.
Right.
Simple as that.
And I think you use the right wordage to it too. It's that it's a tool. It's not a
Exactly.
cure-all, and it's not just something you do this and then all your problems disappear. There's definitely an element of having to keep up on it and making sure that you're using it responsibly because, I mean, at the end of the day, it does feel amazing,
Mm-hmm.
And so anything like that, you're smoking weed, drinking alcohol, anything, like you do it way too much, it's going to be a problem.
Yep.
And Kratom's no different. However, I just think at a baseline level, it's so much better than going to get painkillers, going to get any sort of opiates for your problem.
Right, and that's where I'm a big advocate of it. If you come to me and you're like, I am in severe pain, and I'm on 30 milligrams of blues every day, prescribed from the doctor, I don't want to do this shit anymore. I'd say take Kratom the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So be it. It's better than opiates, I can promise you that.
100%.
That shit ain't going to get you anywhere. Opiates won't. And in my experience, I've never seen a fucking person nodding out on Kratom on the street.
Right.
Yeah.
They're still functioning people of society. They're doing what they need to do. Everyone has their vice. It is what it is. Opiates, I could probably go
Control
walk
your
on the
life, dude.
Springs right now and find you
And point
15
them out.
people that are controlled by it. They have to leave work. They have to wake up and take it. They have to do it on the dot. Yeah, you know what? You got a dose Kratom, so be it. I can still sit at work all day. I can do what I need to do.
Right.
So that's where the difference comes. And it's crazy to me that a mom in fucking Hollywood can drink wine and take painkillers, and
All
everyone
day.
doesn't care. They don't bat an eye. But if you drink kratom, it's like, oh, especially as a recovering addict, it's a
Right.
real interesting thing in the alcoholic addict world. Like, are you really still clean?
Yeah.
It's a mind altering. I think there's an argument.
I do too.
I really do. You know, shout out to the people that can, you know, completely stay 100% sober and, you know, not do anything. But, you know, unfortunately for some of us, that's just not the case. And I do believe that, you know, I do fall back on kratom for the urges, for the cravings, for the just the overall peace that it gives me in my life. And, you know, if I can find that in kratom and not in alcohol or pain pills or heroin, you know, so be it, man. And I got no problems with that. And hell, if somebody just takes it in their day-to-day life as a boost like coffee or something, I don't think anything's wrong with that either.
No, I mean, there's tons of studies showing it's a great pre-workout. You know, I mean,
I know all my
It's a tool.
musclehead friends take white kratoms
Yep.
before they go to their gym sessions and knock it out. They lock in, they zero in, and they just get a good workout
It just makes it suck less too. You
it's
know,
a
like,
tool in your
it is
tool
what it
belt.
is.
How are you going to use it, right?
Right.
Are you going to take a hammer and bang on a screw? No. You're
Right.
going to hit a fucking nail. Are you going to use a screwdriver and try to hammer in a nail? No, you're going to screw in a screw.
Right.
It's the same thing. It's a tool in the tool belt. How are you
use it
going to use it?
accordingly. Yeah, there you go.
That's what my only thing is. If someone were to ask me about kratom, I would tell them, use it the way you're supposed to. Do your research on how you're supposed to use it.
Educate yourself.
Educate yourself. And I don't think you'll have any issues.
I agree.
Man, I could not agree more. Johnny, man, I really appreciate you, bro. That was intense, man. That was as intense as I thought it was going to be, man.
Appreciate you
I want to
guys.
tell you, man, like, I've been honored to have you as my friend over the past couple of months, man. I feel like you've pushed me in the right direction. I feel like you've played a big role in my life and me straightening up too, man, a little bit. So, you know.
And I obviously the viewers don't know you the way that we know you. I had high expectations going into this one, and I think that this, you know, surpassed even that. I had a great conversation, and I think like now I feel like I even know you on an even more personal level than I did before, and I think that that's great. I'm glad we had this conversation. Appreciate the time, and I think that about wraps us up.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me. I hope this can help somebody out there, and I really hope that, like I said earlier, you know, do your research, use it as a tool and not as a crutch. That's, yep, exactly. And if you do that, I think it can work wonders for people. And everyone's different, like I said, but, you know, find your cup of tea and you roll with it.
What an episode, man. What an episode. Thank you again for joining us. That's been another episode of Kill the Stigma podcast. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Share this with anybody that you know that's might be struggling. Anybody out there going through some rough times, just never be afraid to reach out to help. You know, find us on social media. Reach out to one of us. We would love to get you lined out. Join us next week. Thank you guys all for joining us.
Wear your seatbelt.
Wear your seatbelt.